Gen X, as we're getting older, the people that we looked up to and were heavily influenced by are starting to pass away. Question I have is, why does it always seem to happen in threes? Stick around, let's talk about it.
All I need are some tasty waves, cool buzz, and I'm fine.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Rad, back with another video, and this video's a somber video, but also I would say a tribute video, because within the last week we have lost three individuals that heavily influenced Generation X. Two of them were boomers, one of them was actually Generation X, but all three of them were at the height of their careers with the Gen X age people. Of course, I don't see too many people talking about it, but obviously it started off first with Malcolm-Jamal Warner, who we all know as Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show. And the interesting thing is that, my oldest son is Thederic, right? It's a German name, but he goes by Theo. And I always told him, I didn't name you after Theo from The Cosby Show. And he kind of didn't know what I meant, but
Theo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. No wonder you get D's and everything.
So maybe somewhere in the subconscious part of my brain, I like the name. But Theo, obviously, or Malcolm, was born in 1970, so he was a Gen Xer. And his is, I would say, the most tragic of them all, because he died by an accident, something to do with water or drowning or something like that. He was only 54 years old, so he definitely, went too soon. And, the influence that his character had on me, because he reminded me of my brother. He's my brother's age. Actually, my brother's 1 year younger than him, but my brother, when we would sit down and watch The Cosby Show every single week, we never missed an episode, you would see Theo do things that I would see my older brother doing, trying to do this and manipulate that and plan this. And I would see it in real life with my brother. And I actually never realized he was, so young. I didn't realize he was just a few years older than me, because I looked up to him so much growing up. And I would say that, he first was the one who influenced me the most in life, because I was closer to him and I can watch him on TV and kind of relate to some of the things that were going on. And then, of course, next it was obviously Ozzy Osbourne, who passed away in his 70s. Obviously, he is a boomer, right? But the boomer, or the Gen X class that started in 1965, pretty much by the time they were 10 or 11 or 12 years old in the mid 70s, they were definitely rocking out to Ozzy Osbourne. I have to say that Ozzy scared the crap out of me, because, I heard him when I was 5 and 6 years old. I remember Bark at the Moon. I remember seeing some friends, my older brother's friends, covers of him in his little wolf, outfit or whatever. And I mean, as a 5-year-old, I was just one of those ones that were always freaked out over horror movies. And then, of course, being from Texas, we knew, about him peeing on the Alamo, which really did happen. And, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but many years later, actually, the Alamo put out on social media with his passing that he did, and a lot of people don't know this, but he did come back to Texas, and he apologized to the people that run the Alamo, and actually came back and did a full tour of the Alamo, and they welcomed him with open arms. So that little situation was put behind him. But I definitely, when I got older, started listening to Ozzy, and loved his music to the point to where in the mid 90s, and it's funny, it's like I've created my own Mandela effect, right? Because I saw him at a festival along with Sepultura and Danzig. I thought it was Ozfest, but when I go to look it up online, when I go to Grok, they all never played together in Austin, because I saw it in Austin. It might have been Round Rock or somewhere. It was an outdoor festival. And I remember it so well, because when we were leaving, once again, it was an amazing show. But when we were leaving, some stoner van with this massive welded metal bumper on the back sped up, got right in front of us. Then, for whatever reason, they slammed on their brakes and we crashed into the back. Now, I was sitting in the back seat. I remember my friend James, his girlfriend, can't remember her name, and my ex-wife at the time, Theo's mom, was in the front seat. And we slammed so hard, his girlfriend that was driving snapped her ankle. I flew forward. My buddy James flew forward, bounced off the back of the passenger seat, and then I was flying forward. His head hit my rib cage right here and broke my rib. So we spent the next few hours at the hospital. So, oh, and the van took off, right? It didn't even bend their bumper. And, but I remember that specifically because watching the people in the mosh pit, enjoying the music. However, it supposedly never happened. Ozzy Osbourne apparently never played Ozfest in Austin or Round Rock, and he never played with those people in that city. But I know what I saw, right? I know I saw him, and maybe Danzig I saw somewhere else, and Sepultura I saw somewhere else. But I could have sworn. Oh, and I wasn't high on acid. Okay, so I wasn't hallucinating. But that's how I remember it. But I have created my own Mandela effect. So obviously, you know, and then with his show, the Osbournes, it gave us a new insight to him. I mean, he's very hard to understand when he speaks, right? But then he can go up on stage and sing and sound crystal clear. It's kind of weird. So we came to know his wife and his two kids through that show. And it was an amazing show to kind of give you the insight. And then that's when I think a lot of people, the younger generations, really started to know and embrace Ozzy. And then as time went on, they went on to, embrace his older music with Black Sabbath and whatnot. So that was a huge loss. But again, he was an older man. He lived a full life. I would reckon to say people were probably like, I'm surprised he made it this long, right? But it's still a tragedy nonetheless. And then finally, just what was it yesterday? Finding out the passing of Hulk Hogan. Now, I have watched wrestling throughout the years. As a matter of fact, I've got a big movie poster over here for the Iron Claw that Zac Efron did about the, now I'm having a brain fart, the Von Erichs. And I remember seeing the Von Erichs in Corpus Christi, the Bayfront Coliseum. It's an awesome Coliseum built right on the ocean, which they tore down. But I remember seeing them there. I don't know which Von Erich it was. I was very young. It was the late 70s, maybe early 80s. But I know I saw him. And then, of course, Rocky 3 came out, where, what was it, Thunder Kiss?
Thunder Lips is here, in the flesh, baby.
And was in the show, and he just picks up Sylvester Stallone and tosses him in the audience. So that's the first time I had ever seen Hulk Hogan, was in Rocky 3. And then, of course, that's when WWF started popping off. It started, I think that's when Vince McMahon was able to get it, all throughout the nation. And we started watching it. And then, and that's one thing that we remembered. He was the second most influence on me in his earlier years, because what did he say, right? Work out, take care of yourself, take your vitamins, and pray, right?
Pray, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country, be a real American.
And I think I was too young to work out at the gym, but I definitely did have my mom go buy me some Flintstone vitamins because Hulk Hogan said to take my vitamins. And I did say my prayers, right? So Hulkamania had swept the country, and he was an amazing influence. Now, of course, we know all of these people have their camera lives, and then they have their real lives. And of course, we find out later, I think they had the show The Hogans, right? And you see his wife or ex-wife, and then his two kids, and then you realize, hey man, they're all human, right? They're not people that we have to put up and idolize on a pedestal. However, they still did heavily influence us, and Hulk Hogan, that was sad. Again, 71 years old. Like I say, he lived a long life. A lot of those wrestlers, they die young. So for him to make it to 71 with probably a lot of the chemicals that he pumped into his body over the years, and then of course the massive trauma that he put his body through, it's going to take its toll. But nevertheless, that was a real hard one to get over, because you just saw him on TV not too long ago at the Trump thing and ripping his shirt open and all that, and he still looked great, right? So it's just sad to see, but it just makes you realize that we're starting to, as Gen X, right? We're starting to lose those people, right? My mom's generation, they had Cary Grant, they had Robert Redford and Paul Newman, right? And then we have this other class of people, the next generation, so to speak, and they're in their 50s and 60s. I mean, the top action star right now is Tom Cruise. I mean, he's not the next. I mean, he's just an anomaly in the sense that he's still able to do the things that he does. But it just makes me wonder, because of this monoculture, which I'm going to do a video on that we used to have, we don't have it anymore. And I'll explain what that is. And I don't mean monoculture when it comes to farming, but we had a monoculture growing up, and now with Gen Z and this younger generation, that just doesn't exist anymore. So it made me wonder who is going to be those action stars like we had in the 80s, the Schwarzeneggers, the Dolph Lundgrens, the Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? For these 10 and 15-year-olds. Now, that dude that was in Top Gun Maverick and in Twisters, I think he's kind of getting there. He's up and coming. But as for musicians and anything like that, there's just nobody that stands out, right? Like an Ozzy Osbourne, or somebody that was as influential as a teenage boy as Malcolm-Jamal Warner's Theo Huxtable, and somebody as influential as to work out and strive to be strong and healthy as Hulk Hogan. I mean, do those exist anymore? I'm not saying they don't. I just don't know who they are and if they do, and will they leave that type of a positive influence on those that watch them. So sad to see, but again, thank you for the memories, Ozzy, Malcolm, and Hulk. And with that said, if this is something you like, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and sharing the video out. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.